Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
And good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this another excursion down this journey that we've got. It's been quite a journey this week for us over here, I'll tell you what. But we're here. And I actually didn't do something today during show prep. I didn't think of an opening.
You didn't?
No, usually I have at least some kind of philosophical starting of the show and kind of starts the, kind of the scene for the whole show, kind of frames it, and then I kind of have an ending frame, whether I know it or not. I didn't do that this time. I was tired. My sleep schedule's been all whacked.
Your sleep schedule is insane right now.
It's been all whacked out, and so yeah. So we don't have an opening for the show tonight, so we're just going to jump right in.
Well, we could talk about our week. We had a big week. The kids moved out. We are alone now, just the two of us banging around in this big house.
Yeah, we're empty nesters. The house just feels big now, doesn't it? It's actually a little house.
It feels big.
It's a little house, but it feels big all of a sudden. But, it's been a crowded house until it's not. It was.
Well, we had 5 people in this house.
Yeah, 4 adults and a toddler. That's a full house.
Yeah.
And it's a 3-bedroom house, so it's big enough, but it's a little 3-bedroom house. But it's, hey, you do what you need to do for family, right? And you get your kids sent off in the most,
stable.
Yeah, you send them off with a future of success, right? You try to get them sent off with the best foundation you can for the future of success. And, they'll all be all right. It's tough out there these days, though. It's a tough time to be out trying to do all that.
Yes, it surely is.
And, times are only going to be tougher here coming up. But they're a hardworking bunch. They'll be all right.
Yeah, they will.
They'll all be fine. Even though it is a bit strange for us to be sitting around and it's awfully quiet here now. We went from having a toddler, nicknamed Bam Bam, right? So just to kind of he earns his name.
Well, broken was his first word.
And so now it's quiet.
Now it's very quiet.
Even though he came over today.
They come over to pack up some more stuff every couple days, and he comes knocking on the bedroom door.
No, we had a good time today. He had spent a couple hours watching TV today because between where his dad was working and his mom got home or got back from work. So we had him for a couple hours today, and it was fun. But,
Monster truck videos.
Monster truck videos. Hey, we went for a walk, y'all. What's the best one? The one thing you can always do for a toddler is take him for a walk because, he likes to go outside and see the world. Of course, toddlers do. They get a little bored by the time you get around the back, though. It's not like they're tired of walking. They're just bored. And, there's a rock on the ground. Let's take a stop and go walk through the rock. You can't walk through the rocks in people's yards. Stop it. Come on. It's not just a pile of rocks. It's someone's front yard now. We live in California where there's drought and stuff. So people have rocks and bark and stuff for their front yard instead of just grass. And so, kids walking on that first foot of grass, no one cares. But you can't walk on the rocks. You're kicking rocks everywhere. Stop it. No, don't hold my hand. We'll stop walking on the rocks. But hey, that's how you civilize toddlers, right? You just show them how to do it. And, they don't know. It's not their fault. They're 3. It's they have to be taught these things. They have to be taught to civilize. So anyway, it's just, that's been our week. It's a week of transitions. And speaking of transitions, we want to remind you all that In a couple weeks, we are changing our format. We are going to have 3 days a week. Start with show 100. We're going to start with half-hour shorter shows 3 times a week rather than one long show. We're going to see if that's what's the word I'm looking for? A better formula for us, so to speak. We keep trying things out. So to start here tonight, we've got. So now this is an opening question. Why to choose boundaries over forgiveness?
Now, wait a minute. Now, can't you forgive someone and still, like, if someone, you relied on them to pick you up and take you to an appointment and they consistently didn't do it, then you forgive them, but you stop asking them to pick you up and take you to appointments.
So there's that. Well, and you're talking maybe like childhood trauma or something, but there's.
Oh my goodness.
But let's deal with what's the point of forgiveness. The point of forgiveness is so you don't drag that around with you anymore. It's not for them. The concept of forgiveness isn't so you forgive them, it's so you stop having to drag that around with you. Because if you don't forgive somebody, even if you read the article, they're still dragging that lump of baggage around. I refuse to forgive them. I'm going to set boundaries instead. Well, you can set boundaries and forgive them. That's actually unacceptable, so you don't have to carry that piece of luggage. I mean, I can understand the concept where someone has harmed you emotionally. We don't even have to go very far. A hurt, and I can understand you not wanting to forgive because, well, they hurt you. Why should you have to forgive? But it's not for them. Forgiveness.
No, it's not.
It's so you can put that away, so you don't have to carry around that hurt and that baggage and that thing anymore. That's the point of forgiveness. The point of forgiveness isn't to forgive them. It's so you don't have to carry that around. Because if you don't forgive them, you will always carry that around. You always have to carry that little bit of unforgiveness. You have to stick it in your head. It has to stay there. You can't let it go. And if you can't let it go, what do you do with stuff you can't let go? You pack it up and carry it around with you. Figuratively and literally, literally and figuratively. It works both ways. Because, that's why we use these analogies. So it's an understandable emotion. And I get it. And, some of us it's harder than others. And
sometimes some took me years.
And some things are harder.
Some I'm still working on.
Yeah.
Childhood stuff.
Well, and, let's not forget, you're dealing with conceptual and philosophical workings, but you also deal with human beings, that trying to learn to forgive for you is different than actually being successful at forgiving. But, there's honor in the effort.
Sometimes it's a process.
It's and sometimes maybe you don't fully forgive them, but maybe you're not carrying around so much baggage either. Maybe you've lightened the baggage load over the years.
Yes, it doesn't irritate me as much. It doesn't hurt as much. I don't cry anymore.
Yes, because if you don't do that, if you don't work on forgiveness, then you're still carrying that original pain around.
But what I'm trying to express is it's not like flipping a switch.
No, this is true. I mean, we all talk about forgiveness and all that kind of thing, and it sounds like, just forgive somebody, it's fine. You'll work through it. No. It's much more difficult than that. It's a long-term process, and it's a mindset that you apply not to just one case. It's a mindset that you apply to times and situations over the course of time. And as you practice it in less stressful situations and less emotional situations, you become better at it for those bigger emotional situations. That's why in therapy, people, you don't really start with the big things. You kind of work your way to it. And the reason you do that is so you get practice dealing with it. Just like anything else, right? If you go to the batting cages, you don't start at 90 miles an hour, right? You start at 50. And then you go to 60 and 70 and 80. And because, you just stop off the street, grab a bat, and go and try and hit a 90 mile an hour fastball off a batting cage, you're going to look like a moron because you're not even going to see it. You're just not. And so it's the same thing. You work your way up to the harder stuff and you build your skill set. And so I understand why and you want to be careful because you can genuinely understand the emotion and you don't hold it against anybody who's experienced a trauma and can't forgive and can't find it in their heart to do it, right? It's understandable. It's a very human thing.
Yes. My heart aches for them.
And, we're not pointing fingers because we're all there,
Yeah.
There's doubtful one of us, who has managed to get by and actually given forgiveness to everybody who has harmed them. Gandhi, Buddha, there may be a handful of people who managed it in the course of human history, but it's conceptual. It's just something to strive for. It's you try to learn to be more forgiving because it's better for you. It's got nothing to do with them. I think that's what you need to remember. That you're not forgiving them for them, you're forgiving them for you. And so, approach it like that. And I think personally, I think it's kind of the best approach. Not the easy one. No one said the high road is easy, but it's got a beautiful view. All right, so what we got next? Oh, this is another one. We kind of got an eclectic show tonight, don't we?
Yes, we do.
What the heck was I doing? I must have been tired.
I don't know.
I had a thought in my head to how to wrap this all up. I just don't remember what it was. I should write these things down. That's a possibility,
I found this next article really somewhat baffling.
What?
Don't call disabled people differently abled. What this person expressed was they were part of teaching people who are not disabled about the disabled, and he would call himself disabled. And people would say, oh, no, don't say that. You're differently abled. They told him how to self-identify. I find that baffling.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. It means the same thing. You're just changing the words to mean the same thing to make you feel a little bit better about yourself. Any negative connotation with disabled will transfer to differently abled because it means the same thing. So changing the word doesn't change the connotation. And you understand what they're trying to do with this, right? You're trying to be more inclusive. You're trying to be less negative with people with disabilities. But you're actually not, because you're just putting a new label on the same thing. And so whatever, societal negative connotation goes with disabled people will just get transferred to, differently abled, because you're talking about the same people in the same condition with the same issues. What you have to deal with is you have to deal with it straightforward. And it's a strange thing because as someone with anxiety disorder, I don't want the world to cater to my disorder. It's up to me to learn to deal with it, right? You would like the world to be a little more empathetic, a little more compassionate, but you can't really expect it. Because this is not how the world works. And the same thing with, I spent the last 6 months blind. And there was no hiding from it. What are you going to say? you're differently able. No, I'm now blind. I'm not differently abled. I'm now blind. It's okay. You know, you don't have to hide from it. I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm not ashamed by it. Didn't feel any. I'm blind, but you know, I'm blind, not a serial killer. You know, there's I don't understand what your problem is. It's not my problem. It's yours. It's theirs. And so that's what we want to deal with is how are these things? Why do we perceive these things as problems? It's not so much as trying to just smooth over our emotions so we can feel like we're more compassionate than we really are. You don't change your words, change your behavior. Because, disabled people, as someone who's did it, there's no hiding it. I know I'm blind. I know I look goofy. I know I'm, close to walking into walls and have to be careful about, some of the most basic things. Hey, can you help me walk down the street? Because there's a pole somewhere around here that I can't see. We really had to do that.
Yes, we did. We went to Hawaii. I had to give you step by step down the path through the jungle.
Yeah, going through. Our airports are not designed for blind people.
No.
They're just not, right? But, you deal with it the best you can. You laugh your way through it. But it's not easier pretending that it's not, that you're not dealing with it. Sugarcoating it doesn't make it easier to deal with.
Yeah, that's some kind of denial.
Yeah, but who's denying? It's not the disabled people that are denying it. Like you said, it was other people who are trying.
Yes.
So it's not the disabled people who are having this problem. It's, normal people who are wanting to coat over this negative connotation they feel is, associated with disabled people. But there's not. It's you all are the ones. Those are the people with the negative connotations in your head. Stop changing the label and change your thoughts. Yeah. Disabled people know they're disabled. Pretending that it's, oh, well, you're special. No, I'm disabled. I'm blind. I'm not special. I'm blind. There's nothing special about being blind. I'm just blind. Hey, and I actually learned how to edit videos while blind. So there's, it's an accomplishment. And I made a quick how-to video. Now that I can see, I made a quick how-to video for one of my friends on how to, edit our videos real quickly. And it says, hey, you've got mad video editing skills. Well, A, no, I really don't. I have basic video editing skills. But B, I learned doing it blind. And so it looks good to outside people because now that I can freaking see, it's easy. And so, the difficulty level drops significantly once you can see, right? So all the skills that I learned while doing it blind, now it's because now I can see. So, but it wasn't differently abled. I had to learn to do things differently, sure, but that's not differently abled. That's just being being unique, like we all are. We all do things differently. My editing process is different than other people's. It's not better or not worse. It's just different, whether I can see or not. It's the same thing. Anyway, so move on. Stop judging people. How about that? And just, how about we just stop judging people? And this was actually kind of the one I wanted to get to. Is Jeremy Clarkson, which is someone we both kind of enjoy in different ways, right?
I like Jeremy Clarkson's Farm.
She likes watching Clarkson's Farm.
It's on Amazon Prime.
And, I'm from the old school of watching Jeremy Clarkson drive around, creating smoke and a bunch of noise, screaming, more power! as he's doing a power slide, discussing,
On Top Gear.
yeah, on Top Gear, discussing about, the workmanship of the car and the horsepower of the engine and all the various goofy things that they did with cars. And so I enjoy it for the light entertainment that it was. She enjoys his Clarkson's farm, which is hilarious, by the way. If you ever want to see some city slicker go and try to learn to be a farmer, it's genuinely hilarious. You may not like it past the season or so, but, depending upon your personal proclivities, but it's genuinely hilarious watching him try to learn how to be a farmer. It's like watching me try to learn how to be a farmer. It'd be hilarious to watch it on the wall because
the sheep were great.
Why would you? Anyway, I'm gonna be a first-time farmer. I've got all this other stuff. I'm gonna go get some sheep because it'll help me cut grass. Just you've got a tractor, dude. You can just drive over the thing. You didn't need sheep to cut grass, but he wanted sheep, and the sheep cost him a fortune, but he didn't care. He liked watching them. He actually found it very comfort. It gave him they're talking about value. It gave him more value than the bundle of cash that he had to spend on them. If you actually, at the end of that first season, he liked having those sheep. He liked going and watching the sheep run around. It gave him, value. So it didn't matter how much. He didn't care how much money he spent on those damn sheep at the end of it. Yeah, those sheep cost him like $11,000 or something like that. Some outrageous amount of money. He lost like $11,000 on the sheep or something like that. He didn't care because it gave him, value in other ways. But anyway, he's facing his birthday, his 62nd, 66th birthday. I forget what it is. It doesn't matter. His kids are all gone and grown, and he's feeling, the pressure of the end of your lives. It's coming sometime, whether it's next year, 10 years, and, he's feeling that, the pressure. He's afraid of death. Now, that hasn't hit me yet. Oddly enough, I become less afraid of death as I've gotten older. So I kind of have a different approach to it than Clarkson does. But it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate where he's coming from, because lots of people are afraid of death. Some of us are more afraid of how we die than, that we die. I'm comfortable. I've accomplished enough in my life. My kids are grown. If I don't wake up tomorrow, I don't wake up tomorrow, I'm not in a hurry. No one misunderstand me.
Thank you.
I'm in no hurry. I'm perfectly happy to stand in the left lane. The exit lane can stay over there. It's perfectly fine. I'm not. I'm just, I've reached this stage in my life where I'm okay. I'm comfortable with it. I'm not afraid of death. Not looking for it, but I'm not afraid of it. It's just another stage of life, or it's not. It's one of the two things is going to happen, right? You're either going to become nothing, or you're going to go off into something else. I don't find either one of those scary. Not in a hurry to find out which one it is.
I think you're going to be surprised.
Well, if I'm still conscious, I'll be surprised. Yes. If I can still contemplate something after death, then yes, I'll be surprised. No matter what the hell it is, I'll be surprised. Yes, this is true. Even though I'm not expecting anything. I surrendered the result, essentially. Building my life and surrender the result. If there's God, he's got some explaining to do. If there's not, well, then everything makes sense. There we go. It's life ain't complicated. That's all it is. Well, you don't think I can ask God hey, you got some explaining to do, mister? Right?
Well, you wouldn't be the first.
Clearly. So, it's interesting how different people face death and the fear of death. And what is it you're really fearing? Because death by itself isn't scary. I mean, Clarkson believes he just becomes dirt. He's going to be buried in the ground and just become, dirt. He doesn't believe kind of in an afterlife thing. So what's he afraid of? He's left a legacy. He's not going to be forgotten. At least anytime soon. So what's he afraid of? What are you afraid of? What am I afraid of? When it comes to death. That's
I'm not afraid of death. I'm concerned about how I'm going to die. I think everyone is, because we don't freaking know.
Yeah.
It's the big question. What's it gonna be? Because if I knew what it was gonna be, then I could prepare myself for it. See, but now I'm left to prepare myself for all contingencies.
Well, but if you have to prepare yourself for all contingencies, you just become the best you can be and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
I'm just, are you afraid of not being loved, or are you afraid of not loving? Ultimately, I think that's the question it comes down to. What that fear is. I think so much of fear of our human fear is rejection. Fear of rejection, even fear of death, fear of being rejected by God, fear of being forgotten, fear of no longer being loved. That's what it all boils down to. What's the one thing? What's the biggest thing to fear? Fear of rejection by your partner, fear of rejection by God. It's a big fear. A legitimate fear. Right?
Yes.
So it's understandable.
There's a whole book on
it. There's lots of books on it. Okay, now here's this one you sent me. We'll kind of round out the first half of the show. Grandma asked to be paid to watch Grandchild, and mom's feelings are hurt. Well, see, personally, it might depend how much you're asking. If you like asking to watch a child as while they go off to work, well, damn right you should compensate her. She's providing you a service. Especially if she needs it.
Well, this grandmother was home. She lived with them, and she wasn't paying any bills.
Well, but how much was? Well, maybe she didn't have any money, and so she needed to. We don't know how these situations evolve, and it may be more about expectations rather than reality. If you expect it rather than ask. These kind of things, there's some strange family dynamics going on in situations like that. We don't have enough background information to understand.
Yeah, that's really true.
To understand how we got there, right? Because these are the people who raised. That's the woman who raised you. So, you understand where she's coming from. You should understand your mother's thinking. And so there's something going on, and that has to be dealt with. But generically speaking, it kind of depends upon the situation. I wouldn't ask hey, can you watch watch my grandson, watch your grandson or your grandchild? Go ahead. When you're between the shift change of parents, yeah, sure, bring them over. I'll watch them for an hour. I don't care, right? I'm not going to charge anybody for that. You want to be the regular babysitter or child care for someone's job? Well, that's a different story. So I think it really does depend upon kind of circumstances. There's not a simplistic answer. Okay, so what the first question? My daughter. Oh, we should probably wait for Christine to get back on this one. For the Lovinator. Let's see. Oh, there's no easy answer. Is there one here I can answer? Let's see if I can go down to the bottom. No, we're just going to have to answer the first one. All right. My daughter has been crying because no one asked her to the prom. What should I do? Well, my man answer is to tell her to ask somebody. There's some other boy in the same situation as she's in who's just too nervous to ask her, but would gladly accept her to go. She needs to find that boy and go and ask him. This is the modern world. She doesn't have to sit around and wait. There's lots of boys who are just deathly afraid to ask a girl to the dance. They would accept an invitation, but, they're afraid of rejection, so they don't. And the other side is maybe figure out long-term solution is, why does she have trouble making friends? Because you're not getting asked to the prom, it's you're having trouble making friends. And what's that issue? But, but you're dealing with a 12-year-old girl sitting there crying because no one's asked her to the prom, or 13, what was it, 13-year-old, 15?
No, it doesn't say.
Well, prom, you're what, high school, so 15, 16. 15, 16-year-old emotional girl because no one asked her to the prom, telling her to, well, go ask somebody is not an easy solution for her.
No, it's not.
But it is the solution. There's a boy out there who's in the same thing, disappointed no one's asked him. But
that's true.
He's too socially awkward, too nervous to ask. And so, tell her to take some control of her life. And, in the long term, figure out what the problem is, why she's having issues, making friends. And maybe she's not having issues making friends. Maybe her friends just don't like proms, Welcome to my world as a teenager, You know what I did in my prom? I was washing dishes at the restaurant that people at the proms were going to. That's what I did on prom night. I was working in a restaurant washing dishes. I had no interest in going to the prom. These fools were spending money. I was earning money, right? That was kind of my thinking at the time. And I don't miss it. Got a bunch of the cool kids hanging around, patting themselves on the back for how cool they were. Oh my God, can I just throw up and go home?
We went out to dinner. We showed up at the dance, and then we skipped it and went partying.
Yeah, so anyway, I didn't need an excuse to go partying. We just quit partying after work. That was a normal Saturday night. I don't know what y'all was talking about with this prom stuff. Lightweights.
Yeah, but we got to dress up in dresses and do our hair and great shoes.
Great. I got to spend a bunch of extra money on this monkey outfit that is uncomfortable as hell. And
then there's flowers involved.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, just kill me. Just gag me with a spoon so I can throw up and have an excuse to go home. That's all I want on a prom night. Get me out of here.
Well, you would be a fun date.
You've been on dates with me. I'm not a fun date. All right, so what's next? But yeah, the solution to the prom date is to have her take some control of it and go find that boy in her situation and ask. Or, hey, can we want to go to the prom together? It doesn't have to actually. Lots of people go to the prom without, romance. Sometimes
get a bunch of girlfriends together.
Sometimes a budding friendship may have something underneath there that you don't think there is.
Yes, she's got to have some guy friend she talks to casually. Even I bet you he would love to go.
Well, then there's some nerd, who's so focused on his games and his academics that he's not thinking about it. And if you ask him, he'd fall head over heels. But, or she could have a personality problem that's actually the problem and preventing it. But, we can't know with that. But the general solution is to, figure out what it is. If it's a personality problem, that's a longer term solution. But if not, to give her some control. It's 2022. Go get them.
Yeah.
Don't wait for them to come after you. Go grab them. Go grab the one and get them. You got this. You got this. Go on. All right.
Okay, how do I handle a tough mother-in-law who interrogates me a lot? She even asks me how much we pay for dinner when we eat out. Can you give me some tips?
Stop asking. Stop answering. That's the tip. Or the other way you can do it is if you want to give an answer, you just give a sarcastic, reasonable answer. So why are you doing like that? Because it's none of your business. I mean, that's how you have to stand up for yourself. Yeah, at some point, you just have to tell her it's none of her business. Now, how you do that, how you approach that, is going to be your own unique way.
That's none of your concern. Is a little kinder.
Well, yeah, like I said, there's your own unique ways to do it. You know, you can do it. Some people can do it, pull it off with some humor. You know, some people have to be a little blunter. You know, some people need it. Some people need to be hit over the head with the proverbial frying pan to get it, right? So, you just may have to be blunt. But if you want to solve this problem, the only way, there's no tips to do it. The only one tip is in some shape, manner, or form, you're going to have to tell her to mind her own damn business. That's it. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with this for the rest of your freaking life. So, figure out your strategy, stick to it, and tell her to mind her own business.
I had a mother-in-law ask me if our sex life was good.
Well, that's just creepy. That's I'm not sure what to make of that.
She wanted details.
Okay, someone has issues, but that's some religious people, though, right?
No.
That wasn't the religious side?
No.
No, okay. Because you had the Southern Baptist people over there, too.
No, that was my dad's side of the family. That was not a mother-in-law. I didn't marry into any religious families.
Okay. Well, still, I'm just... Because sometimes, the people overcompensate.
My grandmother read dirty books, and my mom asked her why, and she said, I want to know what I'm up against.
It's about the bullshit I've ever heard, but it's fucking great. That is the biggest load of shit. It's also great at the same time. It's awesome. Okay, what's next?
Okay, this is sad. How do I tell my 12-year-old child that he will become blind?
Well, first, you tell them as soon as you can, and you start preparing them for that eventual life. But there's no easy way. There's just not. You would have to, it's like telling the child they've got any disease. There's no easy way to do it. But there's no other choice. I mean, I suppose you can have a good fun day, take them out, or plan a good fun day. Figure out the discussion. You know your children. You know how to break hard things to them. Trust your instinct on that one. But don't delay it. 12, he's old enough to figure it out. I mean, to cope with it. But you're going to have to learn to cope with it.
You may need some help.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming you do have some medical help with the doctors and all that stuff because of this. But this initial approach, you're going to have to do between you and I'm not going to say don't, because if you're feeling completely incompetent and then go and use a counselor to do that because it's better than, screwing it up. But it's best if it's just the parents and the child.
No, I mean afterwards.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to need professional help dealing with it because there's a transition that this child is going to have to be prepared for. And oddly enough, children are pliable. It's probably going to be harder for the parents. As someone who went blind, I think it's in many ways it's harder for the people around you. because you just have to accept it. You've got no choice. There comes a point of acceptance, and you just kind of learn and you get through it the best way you can.
It was hard watching you struggle.
Yeah, it's harder for the people around you. I really think it is. I think it was harder for the people to watch me than it was for me. Lots of people say, they come in and they tell me that, it was, I don't want to know the words they use because it varies so differently, the exact words, but they appreciate the attitude I had getting through that. It's what choice did I have? That's like, I don't see
You
it.
could have done more with me.
I did. But,
sometimes.
But what choice did I have? I could make your life worse, or you can make your life better. And that's kind of the choice I had to make. And your son will make that choice with your help. And it's not an easy journey. And as someone who went through the whole going blind thing, it's probably going to be harder on you than on your son. Take that to heart. So I feel for you. I really, really do. Okay, so what's the next?
My boss scolded a coworker for discussing salary and claimed it was both an HR violation and illegal. Can someone really be arrested for discussing salary at work?
Well, no, it's not illegal. It may violate, depending upon the state, it may violate your work contract. Some states, you can have it in your work contract, and the state will tell you to pound sand. It's not relevant because it's like in California. They can't tell you not to discuss salary. It's not legal. But there's some other states where you can have those kind of things in your employment contract. And if you violate it, then it's an HR violation. Okay, and fire me or not, depends, your attitude on HR violations. I never particularly cared about HR violations. So take them for what they're worth. Fire me. But my always guess was that the job site I was worth more than the violations I caused, so they're going to leave me alone. And it most often worked. A few times when my calculations were wrong, but hey, if you ain't been fired, you ain't living life, right? You ain't been fired at least once, you're doing something wrong. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, no, you cannot be arrested for discussing salary. No cop is going to come down and arrest you because we do live in the United States, and you do have this thing called freedom of speech, and that does cover that. Your company, depending upon the state, may be able to fire you for it or not, depending upon if it's a contract violation, or if you're at will. I suppose they could terminate you. But do you really want to work for a company that would do that anyway? So you've just kind of set yourself up for working at a better place. So there's my solution to that. Don't care. Your boss is a moron. Look for a way out. That would be my actual. If you want my real suggestion, is your boss is a moron, and you probably want to look for a better place to work. How's that? All right. So what's next?
When I send my child to buy a newspaper from the paper machine, I always tell him to get 2 or 3. But some busybody tried to stop my child the other day. What's the problem?
You're teaching your child to be a thief? What's wrong with you?
That's on the honor system.
Well, and our newspapers are dying. Now, whether they've earned it or not, you don't need to help. Now, in a sense, it's true. Some of these things, especially at the end of the day, there's half a stack of paper in there, and you take 2. It's not actually going to cost the newspaper anything because they're not going to sell it anyway. And in a sense, it actually saves them some money because they don't have to go through and recycle it themselves at the end of the day. But it's also still theft. You're still stealing, still wrong. You're not actually costing the company anything at that stage, but it's still wrong. Right? Stop teaching your child that doing something you damn well know is wrong is wrong. You say, but it's just a newspaper. It's just a candy bar. Right? It's just a video game. It's just a. It keeps slipping. Once you allow that line to slip, it keeps slipping. We see that around us. Look at our society at the moment, right? It's coming apart at the seams because, it's just a. And you end up in some place where you never thought you'd be. Bit by bit.
It's a slippery slope.
Slippery slope does exist. It's just not predictable. A lot of people say the slippery slope doesn't exist. No, it exists. There's just two factors. One, it's not predictable. And two, you can change it. You do have the power to change direction, if you're aware. And sometimes being aware of the potential dangers of the slippery slope can actually prevent you from going down the slippery slope. Like not teaching your child to steal. And why is my child in jail at 21? Gee, I wonder why. Stop it. All right, what's next?
Are people who have bipolar disorder friendlier and are happier when they smoke weed or use marijuana?
For the lovely Lubby?
I don't know about friendlier and happier, but there's less anxiety, so I feel I can respond maybe a little more warmly.
Well, if I were to take kind of a gander at how to explain it, it puts you in a better position to have a more even response.
There we go.
Your responses are more moderated rather than
all over the place.
Yeah, and
doom brain. Oh my God, what do they want from me? They want something from me that I can't do. Oh my God, I got to get out of this conversation.
Yeah, and the conversation can go either way. Your brain can send you two extremes, but it's more moderated. I think slows the brain down a little bit, and in that effect allows you to be present rather than thinking off on other things.
Yes.
Maybe that would be my explanation. So maybe, is it make them happier? Well, let me ask you this. If you had a more even response over time, are you going to be happier than if you're freaking having, bouncing all over the walls? As a rule of thumb, you're going to be happier the more kind of even-keeled you are. Right? That's as a rule of thumb in life.
Oh, I was thinking happier after I hit a joint. But overall, it has added to my life, to the quality of my life. Yes, overall.
Yeah, but just like, and remember, it's medication at that stage. It's just like a pill. It's no different. It's a treatment. It's an as-needed treatment. What is it, PDM or whatever they call it? PRN. It's an as-needed treatment. You get to kind of judge the dosage you need as yourself. But it's still a treatment. Okay.
My 13-year-old keeps bugging me to tell her how babies are made. I'm not ready to tell her. What do I do?
It doesn't matter if you're ready to tell her.
She's ready.
She's ready to be told. And if you can't find out how to do it, you can use my solution that I did with my daughter. I didn't feel qualified to tell my daughter about this stuff. And so I found someone who was, that she was comfortable having the discussion with. You can facilitate the discussion if you don't feel competent. Right? Especially single fathers have this issue with daughters. Right? We don't feel competent. We don't know. and we know enough to know that what we don't know is, and so you find them competent, whether it's a nurse, it's a family member, an aunt, a grandmother, whatever it is, that your daughter's comfortable talking with somebody who's competent. And so you facilitate that discussion. And so that might be a way. If you can't do it, then find someone who is. But at 13, you want to lead this discussion. You want to be in charge of it. She's asking you.
She's probably already heard some things. She wants to confirm it through you. She wants some real knowledge.
Yeah, and if you don't feel and it's perfectly acceptable to not feel competent and say, let's go find out, and go to someone who can give her the knowledge that she needs.
Get a book.
But you want to be the one who leads her that conversation, because it sets up patterns in her future life, in her future teenagers, that you want established now. It's not about talking to her about sex and where babies will come from. It's about setting up the pattern of her talking to you about these difficult things in her life that she's going to be facing in the next 5 years. We think about these discussions as talking to them about where babies are coming from, or just talking about sex, but it's much, much deeper and more important than that. You are setting up how she deals with these things, the conversations you have together about difficult subjects, the way she deals with conversations and difficult subjects for the rest of her life. You are setting that standard now. It's not just about where babies come from. Okay, what we got?
I had a job interview, and the hiring manager had me waiting for 1 hour without acknowledging me. I went to the receptionist and declined the job. The boss called me and was angry for leaving. I told him that my time is just as valuable. Was I wrong?
No, because you wouldn't have wanted to work there anyway. They didn't value your time. If they don't value your time as a candidate, they're not going to value you as an employee, and so you did the exact right thing. Tell them to pound sand. Yeah. Good for standing up for yourself. It's a hard thing to do. Okay.
My 22-year-old son has cut my husband and me out of his life and is refusing to take our calls. He says this is revenge for being overprotective, strict, and never listening. What should I do?
Listen. You're going to have to stop calling for a minute. You're going to have to leave him alone. It's hard. But if he's responding to you being overly strict and overly protective and controlling, well, the only solution to that is to stop being those things. And you can't tell them. You're going to have to show them. And right now, the first way to show them is to stop. Stop trying so hard. I know it's hard, but if you want an example, go out and grab a handful of sand. And squeeze it as hard as you can. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to lose most of it. Then you go and grab another handful of sand and you gently cup it in your hand. She'll hold on to it forever. It's the same thing. He's flown the coop because you held too tight. Put out your hand, and when he's ready, he'll come back. It's the only thing you can do. The harder you try, the worse it's going to get. So stop trying. You're fighting your own resistance. You're creating your own resistance. Stop trying so hard. Send a letter. Write an old-fashioned letter. Say, look, I hear you. So we're not going to call you for 3 months. We're going to leave you alone. We accept that you're angry about these things. We accept that we made these mistakes as a parent, and we're going to leave you alone. And then follow through. Don't call them for 3 months. And then when you do call, just leave a message. Hi, I just want to check in and see how you're doing. Don't expect anything back. In 6 months, he'll start talking to you again. But you're going to have to remember, you have to change your attitude. He's telling you exactly what his problem is. It's up to you to deal with it. You have an opportunity to fix your family. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be quick. But take it.
Gotta be patient.
Sometimes you have to go slow to go fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this one. I'm 13 and my parents always give me my dinner cold, all because I was upstairs when it was ready. How do I get them to just wait till I come downstairs when I am ready?
Well, how about you eat your dinner when it's warm or you're going to get it cold? But hey, look, I'm sorry. It's not their job to hold dinner for you. They have the rest of their lives. Quite frankly, you're damn little lucky they let you have it cold. A lot of people would say you're not eating dinner, then you're just going to be hungry. So quite frankly, you should accept the fact that they're being damn well nice. Who the heck do you think you are anyway?
Someone made you dinner, dude.
Yeah, you don't know how to use a microwave and go heat that sucker up by yourself? You're freaking, what is it, 13? Yeah, I think you're old enough to put that thing in the microwave and press 30 seconds. But I also think you're old enough to either go up for dinner or accept the consequences of not. They're willing you to live through the consequences of not being there for dinner. You just have to accept the consequences. They're not punishing you. They're just not waiting. It's not a punishment. Not waiting is not a punishment. They're just going on with their lives. You feel it's a punishment, but life doesn't revolve around you. Sunshine. You're going to find this out. You're going to be sorely disappointed about the rest of your life. This is going to be the least of your problems very shortly. Just pointing it out. The world does not cater to your needs and whims. No, it does not. So cold dinner is the least of your problems here in the next 5 years. So it's going to be a wild ride for that one.
Poor kid.
All right, what do we got?
How do I get my 19-year-old daughter who lives with me to understand that just because I use a disrespectful tone at her does not give her the right to use a rude tone at me? You have an adult relationship now.
Where should she possibly have learned this behavior? Just trying to think how this could possibly have figured out that it's appropriate to be disrespectful to another adult. I'm just curious of where she could have possibly figured this out. Where this habit and trait can be picked up. Who
modeled this behavior?
Just curious of how this happened. I'm sorry to be laughing at you, but this is a problem, again, you've created yourself. We've had a couple of these where, tonight, where these parents are creating their own problems. And then, so how do I solve it? And, for the rest of us listening who haven't created these problems yet, the rest of you who are young parents, don't create the problems in the first place is the best solution. But how do you dig yourself out of these holes? And later on is you have to change your own behavior. If you want to tell her being rude is wrong, then you have to stop being rude. It's quite that simple. If you want to set the conditions where your children are willing to have complex discussions with you, you have to be there when they're ready to have complex discussion. We set up our children in so many ways that we're not really aware of. Whether it's how they approach conversations in the future, it's whether what they what they feel is right or wrong, being rude or stealing newspapers or, all these various things. We set these patterns up for our children as parents. We do that. That is our job, but it's also something we are unaware of. We often think about the purposeful lessons we teach our children. We think about teaching them about sex, teaching them about where babies come from, but we don't think about what those conversations and how we approach those conversations, how we set those patterns up for the future. I'm not throwing stones. I didn't as a parent until, way too late. I didn't become that self-aware until my daughter was 5, 7, 8, my youngest. I had essentially failed all the children before them because I wasn't good enough as a parent. And then you have to accept that because none of us are good enough as a parent. You can't be. We all fail. But you can't be afraid of it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, through our fear, the one thing that kind of binds it all together is our love. Our children understand that we're not perfect, that we make mistakes. But all what they really want to know is that we love them. They're afraid of rejection. And that's why forgiveness is important. Ultimately, for those you love. Because what else are you going to do? From me and Lovey, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good week. And please remember to love everybody.
Good night.